Hi everyone. So today I wanted to describe how, as Muslims, we are sort of plugged in and really deeply affected by Islam because we have, without realizing or unconsciously, plugged in and are subscribed to this larger idea of Islam. We are unwillingly giving our energy and affirming all the deeply held dogmatic beliefs of this collective, in this group, that it has its own power and energy. So if you have ever read any books about energy, collective, groups, groupthink, so you will understand sort of what I'm trying to describe here. The groupthink, or this larger dogmatic, energetic group of what we call Islam here, and how we have been feeding it, giving it our energy, without even realizing, as human beings, this is how we have been practicing our lives. Another concept I think you might find helpful is the pendulum groups, which is basically by Vadim Zeland from his book Reality Transurfing. How the fact that we have been subscribed and we are part of this larger collective, how has this been affecting as a Muslim? I'm going to try to describe that. It's one of the reasons why Muslims can't really say or speak about what's wrong with Islam or Muslims, because it's disloyal and threatening to this group. We are very much entangled with this larger energy without realizing, even though we think we're very awakened. But if you are entangled with this group, there's a dynamic. You have given a lot of energy towards this group, and you simply just rejecting it all out is it's not as simple and as easy. A lot of people who have been part of this group, who are openly or without realizing, have of course pledged allegiance, so now they are loyal to this group's ideas of whatever they hate or whatever they dislike, or what's the whole mentality of this group. So without realizing, you've also adopted a lot of their hate, a lot of their dislike. As you can probably see, most of the Muslims dislike other religious groups, the Christians, the Jews, or any other groups outside of Islam. Even the other sects don't really have a very high regard for Muslims. It is a very divisive and a very isolating type of subconscious. The subconscious, I don't want to say subconscious of hate, but this subconscious, which is very divisive. It is always looking for divisions. That's the kind of subconscious that most people, when they subscribe or when they go down this path of Islam, they unwillingly or without realizing have become part of that consciousness. People are Muslims who, are not in direct or are very living in those very dogmatic areas, have had time to think or expand themselves. They have slowly had to shed the weight of a lot of the disliking and the hate, and of like hating other groups or other people, because it just doesn't resonate with how they are, with how they're living, or where their direct experience. For people who are not in direct contact or not in direct experience, it's very simple and easy to hate this unseen other, but when you are living with your neighbors or in other countries, it's not that simple. It's hard to hate someone who's in front of you for no reason, because some groupthink mentality has developed into a very strong consciousness. Even to the fact, like people who didn't realize them, not only just hate them, but even calling them unclean. That's the level of division and extreme vulgarness that they have. There's a word called dehumanizing, and it's very, very evident if you are living in a Muslim country, how it is simply the way of most people thinking without actually having the words or tools to describe what they're doing. They have simply become people who are easily dehumanizing other groups, or people who are not like them. One way, if you might not realize, is the practiced, repeated hate in verses that they're reading constantly in their prayers, repeating those energetic frequencies that holds a lot of those division, anger, a lot of hate. So they're constantly repeating and affirming those verses, those words, and they are very much plugged into that energy. What I want you to think is that actually there are groups of Muslims who think that or subconsciously think that, but there are also a lot of people who are Muslims who are saying, who are not like that type of Muslims. I was like that. I was not someone who was very plugged into hate, division, or calling people unclean. It was something very questionable. I just thought it was a lot of bias, stigma, a lot of racism, or even if there's a word called where you isolate people based on religion or what their beliefs are, divisive kind of mentality. Most Muslims, I assume that I knew that were like myself or that are living in the West have, or even who are now practicing this, PR version, who are practicing this, candy cotton version of Islam, have actually, most Muslims subconsciously and quietly have distanced themselves. They focus on the positive, loving, and in their own minds and hearts have actually turned down the volume on a lot of the hate and violent parts of the Quran or religion or people who are preachers like that. They have sort of just turned that down and they do not resonate with those type of preachers anyway. They've done that in order to keep their heart, their soul clean. And loving and expansive, because deep down their soul, their heart actually wants to experience love and a loving energy and an expansive, inclusive, in a unity conscious, which is the unity, true, one loving nature, God conscious or creator, which is not some distant or judgmental, harsh God. They subconsciously they are actually practicing that within this groupthink of Islam. So that's how it is. That are, that you love to call loving good Muslims, and those are actually the Muslims. You won't see the loving good Muslims are not the ones who are resonating with the hate verses or the problematic or the pedophilic or the extreme sexist verses. They don't resonate with that. What it has done, without realizing the kind of subconsciously what it has done, it's trained ourselves, and they have repeatedly learned to sidestep all problematic, all confrontations, or anything that is, of course, not sitting well with their loving nature, their loving soul, their true desire. That's not how it sits with them. So they learn to sidestep, avoid all those confrontations. Looking at the heinous, ugly, or the dark aspects of Muhammad, of Islam in our history, which is the Islamic history, they've just left it and just said that it was necessary. Whatever psychological thing that helps them get over it is what they're going to do. What it has done is they've learned to be very elaborately and diplomatically be in a very apologetic type of mindset, and that's how you will see most Muslims are. They've learned to not say it's wrong. They can't outright call it wrong because it's a huge dissonance between their groupthink belief and their soul's calling. It's a huge dissonance. So what they've tried to do is, over the years, they've very diplomatically described it in a very rosy way. I would like to say, as there are all these groups like Sufism or any other, nonviolent, expansive, or very universally loving groups, what they've done is they have actually poured in a lot of their energy, their positive, loving energy, which is what's making it, which is a kind of PR candy cotton version Islam that you have now in front of you, that they would really like to hold on to. It's actually their, love infused and their positive, their expansive thought energy that has been put into this religion. What they've realized is most Muslims in this time period, what they're trying to do is they're trying to pour a lot of white, a lot of white loving energy on this dark gray aspects, or this completely dark black aspects. And all it does is just makes it a little bit of gray. And, it's still palatable. They're still trying to accept it. But there comes a point where it is just not an energetic match anymore. It comes a point where you just can't, regardless of how much you would love to keep it and not, have this break. It's hard to keep pouring constantly white, but it's just going to stay gray, because that's what the Islam is. There's a lot of heinous stuff that they just simply can't outright call it wrong. And for most Muslims like myself and other positive, loving Muslims, when it no longer resonates, when there's a big gap between that gray, even, even that gray is not acceptable anymore. They just can't have that. It was our loving energy that was just, we were pouring into it, that we wanted it to be loving, expansive, tolerant, and having a unity type of consciousness. But when that no longer resonates, that's when most Muslims quietly, or some people openly, will have to step away. And I think that's an easier way to break from this groupthink, rather than just having to, like, completely turn away, because groupthink is a big deal. It's a group energetics that will suck you in. So if you even try to go a little bit closer and try to, like, make it pretty, it will just ultimately suck you in. For a lot of Muslims, for example, right now, when they're looking at the fires burning in LA, or the world tragedies, they don't call it as some act of God or rejoicing over it. But a lot of people who are very sucked into this, gray or dark Islam, they are very much happy and rejoicing and loving this whole thing. You'll see that on a lot of videos or comments. They somehow see it as a win, and they fed into that nature of division, hatred, and darkness. So I'm going to leave this, I'm going to end this video here with some food for thought about how we have, how we have slowly shed the collective trauma, and, like, stepped away and sort of slowly pulled away from groupthink mentality of our energetics of Islam. I'd like to hear your comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.